Located in New York City, there are 5 organized crime families that dominate the area. One of these families is the Gambino crime family. Responsible for illicit crimes anywhere from racketeering to hijacking to drug dealing, the Gambinos started as a minor player in organized crime and rose to power in 1957 after their leader at the time, Albert Anastasia, was brutally murdered. The Gambinos are one of the most well-known and powerful crime families in the country. This is in part because of notable leaders such as Albert Anastasia, Carlo Gambino, and Paul Castellano. According to the National Crime Syndicate, Albert Anastasia was only leader for a short period of time of 6 years between 1951 and 1957. Before he took control of the Gambino family, he was part of a kill-for-hire group called Murder Incorporated that was led by Charlie Lucky Luciano, another crime boss in the area. The Mob Museum claims that Anastasia didn't join the family until after him and his Murder Incorporated associates killed Giuseppe Masseria, another crime boss in New York City. After this event, Anastasia became Vincent Mangiano's underboss, who was the current leader of the Gambino crime family. Anastasia took control in 1951 after a long-running feud with Vincent Mangiano came to a head. Vincent Mangiano disappeared, and his brother was found murdered around the same time, both crimes allegedly done by Anastasia, according to biography.com. By all accounts, Albert Anastasia was a scary and ruthless leader. In his life, he refused to take blame for the Mangiano murder and disappearance. He ordered countless hits on many different people, arguably some undeserving, and committed various different crimes. He acquired nicknames such as the Mad Hatter and the Lord High Executioner because of his actions in organized crime and with Murder Incorporated. Albert Anastasia was murdered in 1957 after he was gunned down in a barber shop in Midtown Manhattan. No one was ever convicted of his murder. However, Carlo Gambino was suspected and highly believed to be responsible. Carlo Gambino took Anastasia's place as the leader of the Gambino crime family. Carlo Gambino, which is where the family gets its name, took over the family in 1957. He was known by his nicknames Don Carlo, or the Godfather, and he was known by his associates to have a quiet and understanding demeanor, which is a really uncommon characteristic in mafia members. The Mob Museum claims that Carlo Gambino was one of America's most powerful and respected mafia members, with ties all over the country to many different crime syndicates. During his time as leader of the crime family, he managed to increase the family's profit, strengthen their ties, all while staying out of the public eye as much as possible. Britannica.com shows that despite his 50-plus years in crime, he only served 22 months in prison between the years of 1937 and 1938. He was indicted in 1970 on hijacking charges, and the U.S. Supreme Court ordered for his deportation. However, his deportation was never followed through with because he had several severe heart attacks before his deportation date. With his deportation being denied, Carlo inevitably died 6 years later in the United States because of his heart condition. His leadership responsibilities then fell to his brother-in-law, Paul Castellano. Paul Castellano was involved in various different crimes as a teenager, and he was Gambino's choice and successor for the family. This fact angered a lot of the members of the family because they thought that the responsibilities would go to his underboss, Anilo Della Croce, as with normal tradition they would. The Crime Museum shows that many of the members of the Gambino crime family didn't like the way Castellano ran the family. They thought he ran it more like a business owner and not a traditional don or mob boss. In early February of 1985, Castellano and 8 others were indicted under the Federal Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, also known as the RICO Act. Before the RICO trial could happen, they were prosecuted in a separate trial for a large-scale car theft ring. The trial for the car theft ring was still ongoing in December of 1985, which is when Castellano and his underboss, Thomas Bellotti, were gunned down in the streets. This attack came only 2 weeks after Castellano's previous underboss, Dela Croce, was found dead of natural causes. Shortly after, Castellano was murdered by John Gotti, who was a ruthless mobster who ended up taking over the Gambino crime family. He was also one of Castellano's top men before his murder in 1985. The Gambino crime family went through many different leaders that led to them being one of the most notorious crime families in the United States. Albert Anastasia, Carlo Gambino, and Paul Castellano are just a few of the powerful leaders that helped the family gain its power and respect. The family had a colorful history with crimes anywhere from racketeering to drug dealing to hijacking, and are still one of the most powerful crime families to date in the United States.